Okay, so some of you may have already called your insurance company or spoken to your agent and they've said to you, nope, not covered. First thing I want to tell you is they don't know the answer to that question. No one does, really. We have our suspicions, we have our opinions of interpreting verbiage in the policy, but a lot's going to determine of how the courts view the specific verbiage in the policy. But you do need to consider your source. And so when you're asking someone who has an interest in whether or not you file a claim, i.e. your insurance company, they may not give you the clearest description, or they may not give you the clearest direction as to whether or not there's coverage in your policy. Because if there is coverage in your policy, they are going to have to write a check. And so be very attentive to the verbiage they use. They may tell you we don't believe there's coverage, or there is no coverage, or there's likely no coverage. Or as far as we can tell, this is excluded. And in some cases, they will be right. You may have a specific virus exclusion in your policy, and in those cases, they may in fact be correct. There is no coverage in your policy, but sometimes there isn't. This is a very ambiguous issue. For example, restaurants who have specific virus exclusions, even the virus exclusion itself will notate other endorsements in the policy that the virus exclusion doesn't apply to. For example, food contamination. So even if you have a virus exclusion in your policy, there may still be coverage for this issue in your policy. So again, I beat this with a dead horse, guys. My best advice to you is get a professional to review your policies. So you may be asking some questions like, what are some coverages that may be in my policy that will extend coverage that don't require property damage? Well, one of those is trade disruption. Trade disruption insurance is another. You can actually get a trade disruption insurance policy. It's an entire policy on its own, and then they have endorsements you can purchase that are attached to other policies, but they don't require property damage as well. If you want to consider the most costly impact of coronavirus, I think on the insurance industry is probably going to be supply chain insurance. All the farmers out there that are unable to sell your potatoes and onions and the things you're growing because the restaurants are no longer ordering because they're shut down due to civil authority and those sorts of things. That is a disruption in your supply chain. The specific verbiage in your policy is going to matter in determining whether or not there's coverage here. All of the things I mentioned today point directly at one irrefutable fact, guys. It is too broad of an issue for someone to give you an off-the-cuff determination of policy coverage. There is an unavoidable way. You have to get a professional to review your policy. Don't accept what your insurance company tells you, or even an agent, because keep in mind, they are an agent of the insurance company. You need to get a sort of independent third party, if you will, who doesn't have an interest in whether or not you file a claim. And in my opinion, the perfect person for that is a public adjuster. And the reason that is, someone may say, well, a public adjuster has interest in whether or not they file a claim. But what a public adjuster will do is they'll give you a fair and unbiased determination of coverage, because I'm a public adjuster and I don't want to waste time pursuing a claim that I know there is no coverage. So while public adjusters do have an interest, they don't have that interest until after the claim is filed. And we're not going to spend a lot of time fighting for a claim that we don't believe is covered, or we're not sure if it's covered or not. What we will do is we'll give the most honest and fair interpretation of the policy language and make recommendations based off of that. If you've got any questions, feel free to give us a call here at Noble. You can go to our website at noblepagroup.com, or you can give us a call.